When I got promoted, my manager said, "Don't get cocky, you're still just a diversity hire." He took credit for every report I wrote and told HR I was emotionally unstable, so I waited. When his wife showed up at the office with a baby that looked nothing like him, I just smiled and said, "Check the security footage from last December. Start with, I was promoted about a year ago." It wasn't a huge thing. I didn't get a raise, just a new title, senior analyst. They told me it was recognition for consistency and reliability. I didn't argue. I'd been doing the work anyway. Every deck, every late night fire drill, every time someone else missed a deadline and I had to quietly fix it, I'd been the one holding everything together. I thought maybe it meant I'd finally be seen. The day it got announced, I thought Vince, my manager, would say something. Just a congrats, or maybe a nod. We'd worked together for 2 years. He'd never been warm, but he wasn't hostile either. At least, not before. But that day, he walked over to my desk, looked down at me, and said, flat and slow, "Don't get cocky. You're still just a diversity hire." Then he walked away. No smile, no sarcasm, just pure, cold condescension. I just sat there for a minute. I didn't react. I didn't cry. But I remember feeling like someone had reached into my chest and flipped a switch. Before that, I used to try to stay invisible. That day, I realized I was never invisible to him. I was a threat, or worse, an inconvenience. The thing is, I knew what people said behind my back. I was the only black woman in the department. I was quiet, but people always noticed me more than I wanted them to. Any mistake I made stuck longer. Any success I had got softened. "Oh, she's lucky? She probably got help. You know how it is now, right? Optics." But Vince had always kept it professional. Until the promotion. That's when things started to shift. First, he stopped letting me present my own work. I'd spend 2 weeks building a report, checking every number twice, formatting it just right, and then I'd find out he'd presented it to leadership as his. Sometimes he'd forward my deck to a VP and delete the cover slide with my name on it. He didn't even try to hide it. No credit, no mention, just silence. Then came the one-on-ones. He'd give vague criticisms like, "You're not showing initiative," or "You lack executive presence." I asked what that meant. He just said, "Figure it out." I started documenting everything: emails, edits, timestamps, meeting invites. Not for revenge, just so I wouldn't feel like I was going crazy. But the worst came when HR called me in. They said someone had raised concerns about my emotional health, that I'd been erratic in meetings, that I was showing signs of burnout. I was stunned. I asked for examples. They had none. I asked who made the report. They said it was anonymous, but I already knew. Vince was building a case. Slowly, subtly, death by whispers. He wanted to create a paper trail that made me look like I'd snapped, that I couldn't handle the pressure, that I didn't belong in the role. I kept my face calm during that meeting, but when I walked out, I started backing up everything I owned to a private drive. Emails, version histories, screenshots, security footage logs. If someone was going to rewrite history, I wasn't going to let them write mine. And then came the holiday party. It was in December. A small office event, just drinks and food after hours. I wasn't planning to go, but I stayed for the free wine and the appearance of being a team player. Vince was already a few drinks in when I got there. He was loud, laughing harder than usual, slurring a little. He was standing way too close to the intern, Nadia. She'd only been with us 3 months. Smart girl, fresh out of college, always polite, always trying to prove herself. I saw Vince pull her aside, whisper something, and then they both slipped into the break room. No one else noticed. Or maybe no one wanted to notice. I looked at the clock. 8:47 p.m. I didn't say anything. I just waited. The next morning, I went back through the security logs. Our floor has cameras, no sound. But the video showed them in there for about 12 minutes. His hands were all over her. Her face said she knew better, but she didn't stop him. I saved the footage, uploaded it to the drive. Still not to use it. I didn't want to ruin her life. But I had a bad feeling. And I trusted that feeling more than anything else. For a while, nothing happened. Vince went back to pretending I didn't exist. HR didn't follow up. I just kept working, kept documenting. Quiet, careful, waiting. And then, 3 weeks ago, the silence broke. It was a Monday, late morning. Vince was leading a status meeting when we heard shouting from the hallway. At first, I thought it was someone on a call, but then the shouting got louder, angrier. The door to our floor slammed open. Everyone froze. His wife walked in. She had a baby in her arms, probably under a year old. She didn't look calm. Her face was red. Her eyes were puffy. She stormed past reception straight into the conference room and slammed the door behind her. A few people stood up. No one knew what to do. I stayed seated. My heart was pounding. They screamed at each other for at least 15 minutes. Through the glass walls, you couldn't hear them, but you could see the rage, the pain. She was sobbing, holding the baby in one arm, pointing at him with the other. He kept shaking his head, denying, then shouting back. His face went from defensive to panicked to ashamed. And then she came out. Her makeup was smeared. She looked at me, just me. She stared, like she was trying to remember something, or maybe she already knew. She left without saying a word. Vince came out 2 minutes later. His face was pale, his hands shaking. I stood up, walked past him, stopped just close enough for only him to hear. I said, check the security footage from December 15th. Start at 8:47 p.m. Break room. That was all. I walked back to my desk and sat down. Vince didn't go back to the meeting. He didn't go back to his desk. He just grabbed his jacket and left. It's been 3 weeks. He hasn't come back. HR hasn't called. And me? I'm just waiting. Vince didn't show up for work the next day, or the day after that. At first, no one said anything. Then someone from HR told the team he was on leave. No details. I didn't believe that. You don't scream at your wife in front of 20 employees, then just take a vacation. But things got weirder after that. On Friday that same week, Nadia, the intern, came in late. Her eyes looked red. She sat at her desk for 10 minutes, then packed up her stuff and left without a word. By Monday, her email was deactivated. No goodbye message. No transition notes. Just gone. I went to the security system. My credentials had been revoked. That told me something loud and clear. Someone knew what I'd done. Someone knew I'd pointed them toward the footage. I wasn't scared, but I knew I had to be careful now. 2 days later, I got pulled into another HR meeting. A different person this time, someone higher up. She smiled too much. Kept using soft words like team environment and sensitive situations. Then she said this: there's concern that you may have breached employee privacy by accessing footage that wasn't directly related to your role. I said nothing for a long moment. Then I said, I was trained on the system by IT myself. It was part of my responsibilities when I was asked to monitor equipment access logs last fall, which was true. That task had been buried in a list of 10 others Vince had dumped on me months ago. No one had removed it. She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't expecting me to come prepared. I was calm, polite, careful with every word. Then she said, we're currently deciding how to proceed regarding your future here. That's when I knew. Vince wasn't gone. He was fighting from a distance, maybe through legal, maybe through someone in HR he still had power over. But this wasn't over. I left that meeting and updated my files again. I organized every email, every file submission, every timestamp where he'd removed my name and sent my work to executives. I had 6 months of proof, categorized and labeled. I uploaded it all to a cloud drive under a neutral name and gave access to only one person, my cousin who's a labor attorney. Still, I kept going to work like nothing happened. Every day, quiet, focused, but I noticed a shift. People looked at me differently. Some avoided eye contact. Others smiled too wide, like they weren't sure which side they should be on. Then I heard it secondhand through someone I trusted. Vince was telling people I had set him up, that I was obsessed with him, that I'd been snooping through footage trying to find dirt. He was building a story, making it sound like I'd crossed lines, like I was unstable and trying to destroy his life. Just like before, he was flipping the narrative. Only this time he had help. One morning, someone had gone into my shared folder on the company drive and deleted all my working files. It looked like an accident. No one would admit to it, but I checked the access logs. It was a senior manager, Lisa, someone Vince used to get drinks with every Thursday. I restored everything from backup, of course, but that told me one thing: they were testing how much I was willing to take. I didn't respond. I didn't report it. I just documented it. And then, something I never expected happened. The baby, Vince's wife's baby, got pulled into it. One of the assistants said she saw Vince in the parking lot. He was yelling on the phone, holding a folder, crying. She didn't hear the whole thing, but she caught one line clearly. "You're saying he's not mine? What do you mean you're not sure?" I didn't react when she told me, but inside I felt something shift. He wasn't just fighting for his job anymore. He was losing control of everything: his marriage, his image, maybe even his sense of reality. And I was the one holding the match. I wasn't proud of it. Not exactly. But I didn't feel bad either. He tried to ruin me. He wasn't done yet. And neither was I. No official word about Vince. No updates from HR. No decision about me. I still came to work every day, but I started to notice who wasn't showing up. One by one, people close to Vince started calling out sick, going remote, or just disappearing. Lisa, the senior manager who deleted my files, she was suddenly transferred. Her office sat empty for days before they quietly gave it to someone else. No announcement. Nadia the intern? Word got around that her parents had hired a lawyer. A quiet settlement was rumored. She didn't come back. No LinkedIn update. Nothing. She vanished. But that wasn't the twist. The real twist came in an email. From HR. Not to me. To our department. A mass memo. It said Vince was no longer with the company. No farewell. No explanation. Just that cold phrase, "no longer with the company." That same day, I got called in for another meeting. But not with HR. With legal. There was a new guy in the room. External. Not part of the company. He said he was conducting a third-party compliance review. Said it was routine. Said they were just closing the loop on an internal investigation. He asked me about the security footage. I told the truth. Every word. That I was asked to monitor logs. That I noticed the time gap during the party. That I looked because I had reason to. That I kept the file because I didn't trust what Vince might do. Then he asked me one question that made me freeze. "Did you leak anything externally?" I didn't. I told him I hadn't. Because I hadn't. But something about the question stuck in my head. Why ask that now? 3 days later, I found out why. The footage from that night, the one I downloaded, somehow ended up on an anonymous Twitter account. Blurred faces. No names. But enough detail that anyone from our office would recognize the layout. The timestamp was visible. It had over 60,000 views before it was taken down. I didn't post it. I never shared it beyond my cousin, and he didn't even open the file. I checked. Someone else leaked it. Someone with access. Maybe from legal. Maybe from HR. Maybe Nadia. It didn't matter. The damage was done. And then it got worse. I got a message on LinkedIn from Vince's wife. I stared at it for a long time before I opened it. It was one sentence. "Thank you for not lying to protect him." That's all she said. But it hit me like a punch. I didn't reply. The next morning, the front page of a business gossip site ran a blind item about a mid-level exec at a national company caught in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. Some users in the comments figured out the company based on office photos. A few even guessed the names. I stayed silent. By now, Vince was gone. Legally, professionally, and I assumed personally, his LinkedIn changed to "looking for new opportunities." But no one I knew was in touch with him. What I didn't expect was the silence that followed. For weeks, no one said anything to me. Not HR. Not leadership. Not legal. I wasn't fired. But I also wasn't promoted. They left me in place. Same title. Same desk. Same empty air around me. People avoided me now. Like I was radioactive. But then, another twist. A recruiter reached out. Not just any recruiter. A top-tier firm. Big company. More money. Better title. Someone had referred me by name. I asked who. She said she wasn't allowed to disclose. But whoever it was had sent over a complete portfolio of my work. Detailed. Time-stamped. With proof I'd done everything I said I had. Only one person had that kind of file. It wasn't me. It was someone inside my company. Someone who saw what really happened and decided to do something about it. I took the recruiter call. She walked me through the offer, director level, full benefits, remote, optional, signing bonus. The number was almost double what I made now. I stayed quiet. She asked if I was interested. I said I'd think about it. The truth is, I didn't know how to feel. I wanted to leave. I'd been treated like trash for almost a year. They tried to erase me, silence me, destroy my record. But a part of me didn't want to leave quietly. Not after what Vince did. Not after what the company let happen. So I waited, just a little longer. I started noticing signs. Small things. HR policies suddenly changing. Mandatory harassment training for managers. A new firewall rule that locked everyone out of shared drives unless they were individually listed. People were whispering again. And then I found it. Buried inside an internal compliance folder, someone had uploaded an anonymous incident report. It was long, 14 pages, detailed, dates, quotes, attachments, screenshots. It wasn't just about Vince. It was about the whole culture. The cover-ups, the ignored complaints, the way leadership protected each other, the whisper campaigns against employees who didn't fit. It named no names directly, but if you'd worked there more than 6 months, you could figure it out. The file had been viewed 63 times. It had no author listed, but I recognized some of the phrasing. It matched a line from an old Slack message Vince sent to Lisa, one I had screenshotted months ago, word for word. Someone was building a case from the inside. Not legal, not HR, someone else like me. And then something even stranger happened. Nadia reappeared, not at the office, but at a panel event for women in tech. She was a speaker. I saw the promo online. She was listed as a data strategy associate at a different company. Better known. Bigger. On stage, she looked different. More grounded. Clearer. I watched a clip of her talk. She never mentioned Vince. Not by name. But she said one thing that stuck with me. Sometimes your career starts when you walk away from the people who wanted to keep you small. That was when I made my decision. I called the recruiter back. I said I was in. She sent the paperwork. The night before I was set to accept, I received a final message. Internal company chat. Anonymous account. Just one line, he settled. 6 figures. And signed an NDA. He can't even list us on his resume. Anymore. I stared at it for a long time. It didn't feel like victory. It didn't even feel like closure. But it felt like the balance had shifted, and I hadn't even lifted a finger. Yet, I signed the new job offer on a Tuesday morning. It took 5 minutes. I didn't tell anyone. I gave no notice. No goodbye email. I walked out of that building at 4:03 p.m. and never went back. But before I left, I set one thing in motion. 2 weeks earlier, I had spoken to an external ethics organization, a nonprofit that tracks patterns of corporate misconduct, especially in tech. I gave them the files, not just about Vince. Everything. Years of complaints that went ignored. The retaliation. The deleted records. The internal report someone else had buried deep in compliance. They didn't say much. Just thank me. I didn't expect anything to happen. But it did. 3 months after I left, I got an email. Not from them, but from a journalist. She said she was writing a piece. Said my name came up. Said others had come forward too. 3 former employees, 1 ex-manager, 1 intern. She asked if I wanted to speak. I said yes. We met in a quiet coffee shop downtown. I didn't give her new info. I just confirmed what she already had. Everything had been verified by then anyway. A month later, the article dropped. Front page of a national business site. Title was blunt. How one manager's affair opened a window into a culture of silence. They didn't name Vince. But everyone who mattered knew. The fallout came slow. First, the leadership team released a public statement, said they were reviewing internal protocols. Then, two executives were retired early. One of them was Lisa's mentor. Then came the stock dip. Then came the board shakeup. I watched it all from my new desk. Different office. Better team. Actual respect. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. A year later, I got a LinkedIn connection request from Vince. His profile was stripped bare. No photo. No headline. No recent roles. Just consultant. Open to work. I didn't accept. I didn't block him either. Instead, I clicked through to his activity. He'd been liking posts from career coaches, leaving comments under articles about cancel culture and corporate betrayal. I took a screenshot and closed the page. He was still trying to make himself the victim. So I sent one message, not to him, to Nadia. I said, "They always think we'll stay quiet." She replied, "He should have stayed out of that break room." We never talked again. I don't need to. He doesn't speak my name now, but he remembers it. Every time he applies for a job and they ask why he left his last one. Every time they ask if there's a gap in his resume. Every time someone says, "Do you have references from that role?" He remembers. And that's enough for me. That's the revenge. I don't need to ruin him. I just needed the truth to survive him. And it did.